I am very thrilled to introduce my next guest. I have here Natalie Ryan Hebert. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adriana. So good to be here.
I know, finally. You're another one of my potential guests that I reached out right at the beginning, and it didn't work out right at the start, but here we are now. So thank you so much. Let's start with, where in the world are you?
Well, I'm in Copenhagen, but you can hear I'm not Danish by my accent. So I'm Australian like you, but I've been away from Australia since 2004. I've been in the UK, and now I'm here. I'm married to a Dane. So I've been here 10 years. I speak Danish now, and I'm kind of stuck here with Corona because I can't get back to Australia. So it's nice to hear your accent.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, whereabouts in Australia are you originally from?
I was born in Sydney and grew up on the Gold Coast.
Oh, yeah. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, Gold Coast is definitely serving me well at the moment.
Oh, yes.
So tell me, I like to ask all my guests as well, where in your cycle are you?
I am on day one. So you got me right on the day one. Yeah. So that's a good omen, I suppose. Here we are on day one. Yeah.
Well, it must, normally my guests would not, who have been diagnosed with PMDD in the past, and we'll talk about this in a moment. But, we struggle to sometimes get times because they look at the people are tracking, and they definitely won't book me in when it's Hell Week, or, it will be in their spring in their summertime. So the fact that you are on day one, you must be feeling okay.
I'm feeling completely fine. Yeah. So how you just said Hell Week, this is part of my big message. We have to stop calling it Hell Week. And because the mind is so suggestible, and what you expect tends to be realized. And I'm not saying this is the only thing that's creating PMDD, but it's certainly not helping to say, here it comes. Oh God, get ready for everything to turn to hell. Because you're almost expecting it. So call it Self-Care Week. It is a more sensitive time, but knowing that this is my autumn now, I need to start thinking about what would make me feel good. Maybe I book in a massage. Maybe I don't say yes to that party that I was going to go to when I said yes to it back in spring. What do I need? It's a check-in. So Self-Care Week is a good name for it, because then you'll get more self-care and less hell, hopefully.
I agree. And you're totally right. You've picked me up on my language. I'm somebody that picks up other people on their language, and you've picked it up on me. So I'm really grateful for that. I definitely consider that week to be Self-Care Week. I like to call it, it's slowing down week. I'm going into, I'm getting ready for hibernation. Not that I actually hibernate, but there's this height, like when you go into winter, right? And it's, and I just happen to be on day 7. I'm due tomorrow. It's just so funny that I'm starting to sync with a lot of my guests recently with our cycles. So this is actually it's quite magical. But again, I'm sitting here the day before, and I'm feeling pretty chipper about things and everything. But again, I always like to say that, that I do get a little bit of PMS from time to time. So please tell me what it is. What is your gift in the world? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, well, I guess I've made my mess into my message, right? I went through PMDD every single month for, I don't even know, over a decade. I've also got 4 children, so there's been breastfeeding and pregnancy throughout that. So I lost count in the end, and I don't know, I didn't really get a diagnosis. I mean, I didn't even find out what PMDD was until the very last sort of 2 years of having it. And that was me Googling and me going to my own doctor going, look, this is what I've got. She's like, I've never heard of it. And I was like, okay, this is what it is. It's not just PMS. It's far worse. This is not normal. I shouldn't have to live with this. So I discovered it quite, late. So I'm pretty passionate now about sharing about what it is so that people can get this awareness around what it is. But the thing with me is that I have healed it. And how I came to this was kind of by accident. I mean, I came to a very important point in my life where I'd been awful to my husband. And then of course my period came and I, sense returned and I went, bloody hell. Oh, I can't keep hurting him like this. Like I'd been married before. That marriage ended in flames. I mean, it wasn't all me, of course, we're two people. It takes two to tango. But I did not want to go through divorce again, ever. And I could see that if I didn't sort this out, if I didn't master this in some way, that it was going to destroy everything I loved. And I know many can relate to that. So many of my clients are just like, oh, geez, like I'm going to destroy everything I love. And it's not me, it's this other part of me. And he said to me, you simply have to master this. And I said, oh God, you try mastering it. Like, it's so hard. And I was real defensive, going, you've no idea how hard it is. But then one day I sort of had this moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, listen, no one is coming to save you, Natalie. It's going to have to be you. And that was the moment where something clicked and the universe heard me too somehow, because the next thing you know, Marissa Peer, who developed rapid transformational therapy, kind of appeared on my as a YouTube ad when I was watching something. And instead of clicking skip like I usually do on YouTube ads, I kept watching. And then I watched another video and another, and I was completely captivated by what she had to say about this therapy that she has. And I just knew I have to train in this. And it wasn't because I have to train in this so I can cure PMDD. I had no idea it would even do anything to me. I just wanted to be able to help others. And actually, so many with PMDD have this empath trait. I have this strong feeling and compassion and empathy for other people. Most of my clients are in some way empathetic or creative in a big way. Nurses, like 20% of my clients are probably nurses. Artists, singer-songwriters, therapists, yoga instructors. These are the sorts of women or people who I'm working with. So I'm that too. I'm a singer-songwriter. So I've got the creativity and the empathy in spades.
Wow.
But I did this training in RTT. And then my period arrived without any event. And I went, what? That's not happened for, gosh knows how long. Where was the drama? Where were the tears? Where was the worthlessness? Where was the rage? It wasn't there. And then the next month. And then the next month. I'm going, what? And I realized, and then I started to understand, I have healed my trauma through rapid transformational therapy. So there's nothing being triggered in me when the hormones shift. And this was like a massive light going on. And I felt like I'd been able to get out of the burning house I've been stuck in for decades, but there's still millions of women stuck in that burning house. And this is now my gift, is that I help women to get out of that burning house through taking them through the same healing journey that I went through, kind of by fluke, except now it's a full program.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
Let's unpack this a little bit.
Go back. Wait, rewind.
Yeah. No. So I'm getting goosebumps. Trauma. Because I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe that there's, trauma is linked to PMDD. So explain to me, what is trauma? What is trauma?
Yeah, because we can,
we sometimes, like, people think it's PTSD still. It's not. So sorry, explain. Yeah, please tell me. Trauma.
Yeah, because trauma, the way I think of trauma, because it can be macro trauma or micro trauma, it can be the smallest, it can just be like, it can be the littlest things that would just be a normal part of a child's upbringing that leave an imprint and that's not the truth about who they are. That's really what I think at the end of the day trauma is about. It's forming a belief that is actually not the truth about you and getting stuck on that belief. The biggest beliefs my clients have, like the most common, when it really comes down to it, it's I'm not good enough. I don't matter. I'm not significant. There's something wrong with me. That's shame really at the base of it, which means the real you has to be packed away, and you have to put these shame shields on to protect yourself from anyone ever finding out the horrible truth, which isn't the truth, but it's what you've come to believe through something happening in childhood. And I'll give you an example of something that is you wouldn't think was traumatic, but is in this case trauma. I had a client who didn't trust herself. She just couldn't even make decisions about anything. Even at a restaurant, she'd be like, I don't know. Like, she couldn't trust that her decision would be good. And when we went back in hypnosis, because this is what part of what I do is going back to the root, the cause and the reason for why you don't trust yourself in her case. But we go in with, you know, it could be why you have so much anger or why. But in her case, it was about trusting herself. And she went back to a scene. She was 2 years old. Her mum was always stressed about how messy the house was. So she thought, I know, I'll help mummy. So she climbed up on the kitchen bench, got the dishwashing liquid and squeezed it all over the floor and was cleaning the floor with her little hands with all this dishwashing liquid, thinking she was doing the sweetest, kindest thing for her mother. Now, of course, her mum, who's already going, oh, the house, there's so much to do, oh, I can't get on top of it all, walks into the kitchen, sees this spilt dishwashing liquid everywhere and her daughter covered in it, and of course, completely loses it at her daughter. And this child now has cognitive dissonance, because cognitive dissonance is a term many of you already probably know, but means there are two ideas that cannot fit. They're opposite, conflicting ideas. And something's got to go. So she's got this first belief that says, I'm such a good girl, I'm such a helpful girl, this is such a great idea, aren't I clever? To her mother screaming at her, going, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? Well, that doesn't fit. So that must mean, well, it must mean my ideas are terrible. That's what the child has to now believe in order to make this make sense. That's an example of what I call, you know, what my definition of trauma is. You've now lost the truth about yourself and you're covering it with something to protect. And these can take many, many forms. And, you know, this could happen to anyone. I had a client who had chocolate on her hands and her dad got stressed and went, oh, it's disgusting, it's disgusting. She was 1.5. And guess what she feels premenstrually? Disgusting. So we went back to the root of why she feels so disgusting. And that was also too, she was eating chocolate. She thought it was wonderful, thought it was a fantastic feeling, having a lovely time. So if I think this is lovely and my father, the authority, says it's disgusting, then I must be disgusting because I think this is lovely. And here's how stuff happens, and it gets lodged in the subconscious mind and we don't even know it's there. It's just a belief and we can't not believe it. And then our beliefs go ahead and prove themselves true all the time because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know?
It's interesting. I was watching a documentary with Gabor Mate about the wisdom of trauma.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, our screening is coming up soon again. It's just phenomenal. I'll watch it again. I just think he's absolutely brilliant. And he explains in that documentary, you know, it's simply neglecting the child when they're crying and leaving them, because mothers back then, I don't know now, maybe still back then, were told, let them cry.
Yeah.
Let them
cry.
Cry it out. But actually they need to be held and loved and nurtured during that time. And he's saying that is trauma. That's trauma in itself. And so a lot of people may say, oh, but I've never been, nothing's happened, no trauma, but simply they could have just been left to cry, which is there's no right or wrong, because that's what they were taught at that time. So it's just so interesting that trauma now can just, and I love how you said micro and macro trauma as well, and explaining it like that. I think that's really, really important. The other question, I mean, I know that you're going to speak more about. So what is RTT? What is this? We've spoken a bit about that. It's there's a bit of hypnosis involved in it. Explain to me what it is.
Yeah, so RTT stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. And there's a reason it's called that, because it is rapid, like honestly, one session can fix, can undo. I mean, years of therapy couldn't get you to the same thing, because you can't quite get to the same depth with just talk therapy, normal talk therapy. In fact, you're just going to go round and round telling the same story, almost just making it even more ingrained. Whereas with RTT, you go back to the root of it. Your subconscious shows you where this has really come from. Whereas normally you're going, well, maybe it's because my dad left that I'm like this, or maybe it's because, but you actually never know. You're kind of just guessing, well, maybe that's why I have these feelings. Whereas with RTT, you go into hypnosis, so you're at a subconscious level. You're still completely present though with the conscious mind. Like if someone came in and said, Adriana, you'd sort of come out quickly and go, yeah, like you're not out of it. You're just deeper, just like a deep meditation feeling. And we go back to 3 or 4 scenes and put them together like a puzzle. So, and even if you have had big T trauma, it can help too, because it's not what's happened to you that's created the trauma. It's what you come to believe about yourself as a result, because the event's long gone, but the belief you formed about who you are still remains. And that's the pain, because in every case, there has been self-abandonment and self-rejection. Like that little girl who was washing the floor for her mum, she thought she was a great girl. And then she thought, no, I'm a bad girl. And now she's judged herself. I can't trust myself. My intuition's crap. Now she's judged and abandoned herself. And this is the trauma. The real trauma is when we've left ourselves, judged ourselves, shamed ourselves, disconnected from ourselves. Now we're in pain because we've lost ourselves. We've disconnected from our own love. And that is absolutely torturous. That's what I help people to heal. And that's what helps PMDD. I need 3 hours. But, PMDD is like a thinning of the veil. The premenstrual shift is a thinning of the veil. So what you're usually able to mask fine, you can't mask it anymore. It's like a truth serum from which you cannot escape. Everything will come to the surface in us, these empathetic, sensitive, creative types, where we're really the healers of the world, women with PMDD.
I so wholeheartedly believe that too. I really do.
Yeah, it's where the wounded healers, and when in healing our wounds, we get the gifts from those. Like so much that has taught me that. I'm thankful that I had it now because of who I've become as a result. I've reclaimed my true self. I love myself. I'm reconnected because I had to. It brought me to my knees and I couldn't run from it anymore. I had to face it. And that transformed me. So hang on, I digressed a bit. So rapid transformational therapy, it's like, it's going back to the root of it and then bringing your adult understanding to it. So when my client, say for example, the client who put the dishwashing liquid on the floor, when she went back as her loving parent, so I have you embody the loving parent within yourself, the adult, the wise part of you, the unconditionally loving part. You go back in time with that part to that child on the floor thinking she's not good enough. And when you look at her, you think, darling, what are you talking about? You're amazing. What an incredible little child you were to think of washing the floor for your mummy. It's very emotional. It's such a beautiful thing. And I just get teary thinking about it now. But clients too will just, they will just weep seeing their younger selves thinking they're not enough when actually it wasn't their fault. You can say, well, my mum was stressed. I get it. She didn't want another thing to clean up. She could have handled it better because look what I started to believe as a result. But I've always been good enough. There was never anything wrong with me. My intuition was good. It was just the execution because I was only 2. If I was 22, this would have been a brilliant idea. And then you undo the belief you formed, and it's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. You can't go back to believing it anymore because you've seen it. It's like, oh, it's a fake beard. I see it. You know, I was always good enough. Gosh, how did I ever think I wasn't? And that's the end of it. You don't need months of therapy to go through all the pain. It's like, oh, there's nothing. And then you reconnect to yourself again. I mean, the method takes 2 hours, and we go through all these different steps. Where by the end, you've seen the beliefs, you've undone them because they were never true. And then we sort of create this transformative sort of suggestion, which is normal hypnotherapy then, giving the mind a lot of positive suggestions. But I think the difference between RTT and normal hypnotherapy is that with RTT, we are weeding the garden first before we go and plant any seeds, because those weeds have been there a long time, they're well established. So you can plant new seeds. It's a bit like looking in the mirror and giving yourself affirmations. Your deeper program says, what? You are lovable. That's not what I've got on file. And so it's like it floats off like Teflon. So you need to undo the deeper belief that says I'm not lovable and go, oh no, but I was. Oh, that was an error that I made when I was 1. Or when I was in the womb. You know, I have clients go back to the womb. They can feel their mother going, shit, I don't know if I want this baby. They can feel it. And the baby's going, this is a mistake. I'm not wanted. That must mean I'm not lovable if my mother doesn't want me. And then they're stuck with this thing and they don't even know where it came from. This is the difference. You can't just find that out in therapy, normal talk therapy, because you'll never be able to go back to the womb in talk therapy. Whereas with RTT, if that's where it happened, that's where you'll go. So yeah, I'm kind of just chatting away, but ask me any questions about it. If you know anything else that's not clear, because I'm
you're
100 miles an hour.
No, you're doing amazing, and I completely agree with you. I only it's funny, I mean, I didn't go through this route, but I found out that because one of my healers has said it's, you know, there's past life stuff with you if we want to go a bit woo-woo, but my trauma started when I was conceived, and I just thought, okay, yeah, cool, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to dive into this, and somehow I found out a couple of weeks ago by talking with my mother is that all my trauma happened when I was conceived. I won't go diving into it, but whilst I was in the womb, things happened to her and she finally spoke about it. And it was like, wow, just finding out all these things that have happened, because that's when it all can start. And we can get woo-woo about past life stuff and everything like that. Yeah. But I really love I really loved how you said that, you know, that the women, you know, that what did you say, that you were, you know, the positives that have come out from getting diagnosed. And this is the magical question that I ask everyone, what's the positives that have come out of having PMDD? And look at what have you created for so many people. It's so important. And so many guests that I've had come on already have created some magical gifts from being having PMDD, and it was just lovely to hear that you're calling us creatives and empaths, which we certainly are. So with I'd love to a little bit chat about, maybe are there like some similarities that you have through your clients? Like, is there some standout things that each one is presenting, or are they coming up with all different sort of symptoms, if that makes sense?
Oh, it's very similar. Like I have an assessment we do in the beginning, in the first call, and it's just a self-assessment. I take numbers, like a score out of 10. I have each client give me a score out of 10 on these symptoms, and I mean, here are the symptoms that I go through on this score sheet here. I've got low self-worth, crying spells, angry outbursts / rage, irrational negative emotions, overreactions, anxiety, lethargy, suicidal thinking, irritability, overwhelm, deep sadness, feelings of hopelessness. They're the ones I want to get scores on. When we begin, it's over 5, you know, it's between 5 and 10 for all of them. Not everybody has suicidal thinking, but the majority do. And by the end of the program, it's all below 4.
Wow.
Usually 0s, 1s, and 2s. Suicidal thinking has never been anything but 0 after a client has finished going through the program. It's amazing. It's amazing. And self-love. And then I have all these positive scores too. So I have self-love, moments of joy, ability to control my thinking, laughter and humor, hope for the future, ability to stay calm, ability to bring love and compassion to myself when I'm in a negative emotional state, which starts out at 0 for most. Like, what? Compassion when I'm, no, 0. Like, I'm just hating myself. Presence, and then general well-being. And, you know, when we begin, they're all really low, those scores, you know, 0s, 1s, and 2s. And when we finish, it's 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. On all the positive stuff. So the scores flip. All the negative stuff shrinks to almost nothing, and all the positive stuff comes up really high. So yeah, it's amazing. It's the most amazing thing. I feel so privileged and honored that, you know, that life led me to this, but here I am. Gosh, I mean, 5 years ago, I'd have no clue. If you said, yeah, you're going to be like doing this thing called the red tent, and all these women, like hundreds of women, are going to be healed, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But here I am. Like, it's amazing where life's led.
Oh, totally. It's the same when I think about it. I do a podcast that reaches all these people around PMDD. I'm like, what? That's just silly. But I have to say, I actually spoke to someone last week or the week before, and she's gone through the therapy. I don't know who she went through it, but she's raving about it. Like, it works. People that I've heard of people that haven't had PMDD, have other things going on, anxiety, depression. They've gone through RTT and they all rave about it and voice about it exactly like you. It's like, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's done.
It really is. I mean, I have clients for other things too. This is just my passion area, but I have people come for fear of flying. I mean, phobias, one session finished. You know, stuff they've been fearful about their whole life, petrified to get on a plane, like full-on panic attacks, gone, easy, no problem. So phobias is really easy to sort out. Like anyone with depression or anxiety can benefit from it. It's really an incredible thing. It's the future of psychology.
So did you actually do an RTT session, or did you just start doing the course and then?
Yeah, so I started doing the training with Marissa Peer, and throughout that, you do practice sessions with other therapists, and also with other therapists in training, and then just hearing Marissa work, and also there are pre-recorded sort of sessions you can take yourself through. I also now have pre-recorded RTT sessions that you can buy if you want to take yourself through it. So I just did actually that. It was just that process, and then suddenly everything felt like, I felt deep down I was good enough. That's what it was. And I mean, I'm still growing as a person. I think, Marissa always says that your potential expands as you move towards it. I don't know if it's her quote specifically, but it's so true. You never arrive, because you grow, and then you go, I can keep growing. And like now, I never had a clue I'd be here in my life. But now I see even more potential that I never saw before. And when I get to that, there'll be more again, and as you grow, you hit these comfort zones within yourself. That's what I find RTT works for me now. Like, that's just about enough visibility for me. I think too many people know me now, and put the brakes on. For example, in my business growth journey, I've gone and had RTT on. What's this? Why are you scared of being seen? What's in the way of you feeling you can grow even more? So it can also just be used in a growth way, not just in if you want to be a better basketball player, you could have RTT to sort of condition your mind to be more confident, more agile, whatever. Yeah.
That's so magical. That's so cool. So, I mean, over this time, you've kind of dropped in some other things that are, you obviously do this therapy with people. So the sessions, you also mentioned something about Red Tent and some other other things that people can get involved with you. So can you explain a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so the Red Tent is the whole sort of, it's the umbrella for all of the PMDD work. But anybody could go through the program and benefit from it, because it's PMDD for me it's a label that we give to all of those symptoms. Why are those symptoms there? Well, here's my analogy for that. There are, well, not the analogy, this is my explanation of it. There are 3 elements that create what we now label as premenstrual dysphoric disorder. There is the high sensitivity.
Oh no.
Frozen, can you still hear me? There is the macro and micro trauma. Can you still hear me all right?
Yeah, so maybe just repeat a little bit, go back a little bit. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, so there are 3 elements, like I mentioned before, to PMDD. There is the sensitivity and empathy. There is the macro and micro, big T, little t trauma. And then there is the hormonal shift. And those 3 things can create premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So normally when you go to the doctor, you say, hi, look, this is crazy. Premenstrually, I'm raging, I'm crying, I feel really depressed, I've got no energy, my big list of symptoms I read out before. And the doctor will say, well, what can we do about this sensitivity or this cycle? No one ever says, what can we do about the trauma? It's too hard to look after in a 15-minute appointment and there's no pill for it. So here we go. Let's just see if we can flatten out your cycle. We'll give you a chemical menopause. How about that? Or we can just have the whole female reproductive system ripped out altogether. That's the idea. And now we'll get rid of one of these factors and now maybe PMDD will abate because now there's no cycle to dip you into it. There's no truth serum. Or we can just cut off your sensitivity. Let's just numb you out with the antidepressants. So the analogy I use for this is like there's a fire alarm going off and it's so bloody annoying and you just wish it would shut up. Every month it comes on. So you go to the doctor and say, I've got this annoying fire alarm. Says, all right, well, should we just rip the fire alarm out? We could do that. Or look, here's some earplugs. Put some earplugs in, then you won't hear the fire alarm so much because it's annoying, isn't it? No one ever says, why is the fire alarm going off?
Yes.
Maybe there's a fire. Should we put the fire out? The fire alarm is fine. It's just trying to tell you there's a fire, honey. And you need to actually, I know it's scary and you want to run away from the fire, but actually you need to go back and tip some water over it. And that's what the Red Tent program is. The Red Tent program says, let's go find that fire. Let's go put it out. And then the fire alarm stops going off.
Yeah. Wow. And you said that you've got some hypnosis tracks as well available.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have the Red Tent program where you work together one-on-one with me or Chloe, my other therapist. And I'm taking on another therapist soon because we're growing. And every therapist that works with me has healed PMDD through RTT.
Wow.
So we're all in the same boat. I'm really picky of who I'm letting into my team because this is my baby, but who I've chosen, they are amazing. I feel full trust in being able to, hand clients over to both of them. But yeah, so there's the Red Tent, which is one-to-one, and then there's online work too. There's an online program to work through of metacognitive psychology and lots of just self-love, self-worth, mindset stuff in line, along with the one-to-one therapy. And then there's weekly group coaching where we get together with the other members of the program at the time, and we have these very much loved sessions together each week. So that's the red tent, but then there's also a more self-guided version of that called Whole Healed Woman, where there are pre-recorded RTT sessions that do put you into hypnosis, do take you back to the root and the cause and the reason of the issue, undo it for you. But it's not the same as working one-to-one, I will say, but it's pretty good. Like it's better than just sitting at a counselor's office and crying. You will get so much more out of it, so much more understanding. And then there's a recording you listen to, and this is a part of RTT that I didn't mention, is that we weed the garden, we plant the seeds, and then you have to water those seeds every day so that they take root. So the recording is full of just beautiful affirmations, really, very much tailored to each client. So in the red tent, the recording is tailored to you. In the Whole Healed Woman, it's based on, I've worked with thousands of people now, and I know the basic things everybody really does need to hear to heal. So they are generic, but they're also pretty tailored to the issue as well. And then I have other hypnosis sessions, beautiful birth. I have silence the inner critic. I have sleep like a log. I have this sex is on fire.
Yes.
So I have a few, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got all these other like mini courses, mini products that that you can do aside from the red tent. And then, of course, if you had something else like a phobia or money blocks or anything that you feel stuck with and you just can't solve it, then I have also packages of RTT, just single or just a couple of sessions, that sort of thing.
Well, that's the other question, just a quick question about that. Can we solve multiple things, or do we need to sort of come back a few times? I'm listing all the things that are going on with me right now.
It's funny. It's a really good question, because sometimes I think of it like an octopus with all these legs, and you go, oh, there's all these problems. And I go, yeah, but it might not be. It may just be that they've all got the one root issue of I'm not enough, for example. Like everything is affected by I'm not good enough, like relationships, how much you expect to be charge as a business person, how you are with your children. I mean, the list goes on. But I don't want to ever say to a client, we're going to fix it all in one go, because we don't know what's created what. So we say that it's 1 to 3 sessions per issue. For PMDD, I usually allow 2. For many clients, 1 session actually sorts it out. It's like a complete miraculous recovery. It's crazy. I just go, can't believe this, but I see it over and over. And with others, the second session is required. Very occasionally, they will tack on an extra session, like maybe in 5% of the cases. But we'll always come in with one. I don't want to throw 5 balls at the subconscious and say, catch. It's right. I want to get to the root, the cause, and the reason for why I feel so angry whenever I don't feel like people are considering me. Right. Now we'll get to the root of that. Like that might be the biggest thing, because before we have a session, I always sit down and go, well, what's triggering you? Oh, whenever my husband comes home sometimes, he doesn't even let me know he's going to be late. Okay. And so what do you make that mean? Well, obviously, and anything that follows obviously is an irrational belief. So catch yourself, like whenever you say, well, clearly, obviously, you are saying this can only mean the thing that hurts me the most. You've just hit a belief. You've just hit an irrational belief. So this can only mean he doesn't care about me. I'm not important. I'm not significant. I don't matter. Guess who's talking now? 3-year-old you. So this is the stuff I'm looking for. What triggers you? What creates these big hijack of emotion situations? Because that is the triggers are the guides. The triggers are showing you where you need healing. They are whatever's triggering you is the grain of salt in the wound. And you're pissed off at the person that threw the grain of salt because it hurts so much. So it must have been them. No, you're wounded. So the grain of salt really hurt. And now they're not really the ones that hurt you. It's It's the original wound. And the original wound, when it really comes back to it, is you having abandoned or rejected yourself. And that's what needs fixing. So that's how we sort of go into a session. We do a bit of a digging, a little bit of digging first to find out what are the triggers, because the triggers are pointing to the trauma.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the ultimate magical experience. And I can imagine listeners are like, why didn't I know about this? Because we're all clutching at straws, and, you know, the amount of groups that we're on, everyone's like, does this work for people? Does this? And we're talking about nutrition supplements and this, but really it's all, and I agree with you, it's find the root cause. Dig and find the root cause. And obviously this is such a beautiful way of doing it as well. Such a healing way of doing it. So I'm so grateful for your time. I know that we could chat on forever.